In the dim glow of ancient fires, when the night was heavy with shadows, a figure began to emerge, a figure cloaked in mystery, feared and revered in equal measure. This figure, neither wholly divine nor entirely mortal, walked the line between light and dark. She was the sorceress, a being whose presence stirred both awe and dread, a symbol of power that was both enchanting and terrifying. Her story is as old as time itself, woven into the very fabric of human existence. Long before the written word, when stories were passed down in whispers around campfires, the idea of the sorceress took root. She was the keeper of secrets, the one who could bend the natural order to her will. In her eyes, one could see the flicker of ancient knowledge, a wisdom that was as dangerous as it was alluring. People feared her, but they also sought her out, desperate for the power she held. Her origins, however, were as shadowy as her presence, shrouded in the mists of time, whispered about in hushed tones, and hinted at in the oldest myths. In the beginning, there was the chaos of creation, a time when the world was still forming, and the gods walked among men. In this chaos, the sorceress was born, not from the gods, but from something darker, something older. Some say she was a fallen angel, cast down from the heavens for daring to defy the divine order. Others whisper that she was born from the earth itself, a manifestation of the raw, untamed power of nature. Whatever her origins, she was different from the rest of humanity. She was otherworldly, a bridge between the mortal and the divine, with one foot in each realm. The first sorceresses were not the cackling, evil witches of later stories. They were wise women, healers, and seers. They spoke with the spirits of the earth and sky, communing with forces that were beyond the understanding of ordinary mortals. Their power came not from darkness, but from a deep connection to the natural world. They could summon the rain to end a drought, or call upon the winds to steer a ship safely to shore. They were respected and honored, but always with a hint of fear. For everyone knew that the power to heal was also the power to harm. But as time passed, and the world became more ordered, the sorceresses began to change. No longer content to serve the gods or the needs of their communities, they began to seek power for themselves. They delved into the forbidden arts, summoning spirits that should have remained undisturbed, and calling upon forces that were better left alone. They became something more, and something less, than human beings of great power, but also great danger. It was then that the stories of fallen angels began to intertwine with the tales of sorceresses. The idea of a being who had once been pure, but had fallen from grace, resonated with the people of ancient times. These fallen angels were said to have brought with them forbidden knowledge, teaching humans the secrets of the heavens and the earth. And who better to learn these secrets than the sorceresses, who were already halfway to the divine themselves? The connection between fallen angels and sorceresses is a powerful one, rooted in the idea of forbidden knowledge and the consequences of seeking power beyond one's station. The fallen angels were not evil, but they were dangerous, because they had seen and done things that were never meant for human eyes. The sorceresses, too, were not evil by nature, but their thirst for knowledge and power led them down a dark path. In ancient myths, the sorceress is often a tragic figure, a woman who sought too much and paid the price for her ambition. She is Lilith, who refused to submit to Adam and was cast out of Eden, becoming a demon in the process. She is Hecate, who was once a goddess of the earth and sky, but became the queen of witches, ruling over the night and all its terrors. She is Morgana Le Fay, who was once a healer and a protector, but became a vengeful sorceress, determined to bring down the kingdom of Camelot. These stories are not just tales of warning, they are stories of power, and the price that must be paid for it. The sorceress is not a villain, but she is not a hero either. She is a reminder of the dangers of seeking too much, of pushing too far beyond the limits of what is allowed. She is a figure of both fear and fascination, a being who exists on the edge of the human and the divine. The power of the sorceress is not just in her magic, but in her defiance. She refuses to be bound by the rules of gods or men. She is a rebel, a seeker of forbidden truths, and that is what makes her both dangerous and compelling. She is a fallen angel in her own right, not because she was cast out of heaven, but because she chose to walk her own path, no matter the cost. In the end, the sorceress is a reflection of the human desire for power and the fear of what that power might bring. She is a symbol of the eternal struggle between light and dark, order and chaos. Her story is our story, a tale of ambition, desire, and the consequences of reaching beyond our grasp. And in her eyes, we see not just a reflection of our own fears, but the possibility of something greater, something powerful, and something terrifying. The night was thick with silence, the kind that presses in from all sides, making the heart beat just a little faster. In this silence, in the beginning of time itself, there was Lilith. She was not created from dust like Adam, nor was she born from his rib like Eve. She was different and equal, shaped from the same earth, with a soul that burned just as bright, just as fierce. But Lilith was not one to bow, not to man, not to anyone. Lilith's story begins in a world that was still new, fresh from the hands of the Creator. She was meant to be Adam's partner, his companion in the garden where life was perfect, untouched by pain or sorrow. But Lilith was not content to live in the shadow of Adam, to be just another creation meant to serve. She felt the power in her own spirit, a power that demanded to be acknowledged, a voice that refused to be silenced. When Adam, expecting submission, tried to assert his authority over her, Lilith resisted. She would not be ruled. She would not be controlled. She wanted equality, to stand side by side with Adam, not beneath him. But Adam, and perhaps even the Creator, did not understand the fire that burned within her. They saw her defiance as a flaw, something to be corrected. But Lilith knew her worth. She knew that she was not made to be lesser, and so, in a moment that would echo through eternity, she spoke the forbidden name of God, and in doing so, she claimed her freedom. She left the garden, left Adam, left the life that had been laid out for her, and flew into the wilderness. It was there, in the desolate places, that Lilith found herself. But freedom came with a price. The Creator, displeased with her defiance, sent 3 angels to bring her back, to make her submit. They found her, wild and fierce, but still, she refused. She would not return to a life of subjugation, even if it meant facing the wrath of the heavens. And so, Lilith was cursed. She was branded as a demon, a figure of fear and darkness. The angels declared that 100 of her children would die every day as punishment for her refusal to submit. In her sorrow and rage, Lilith became something more, something darker. She embraced the curse, turning it into her power. No longer just a woman, she became the first sorceress, a being of immense strength, feared and misunderstood by all who heard her name. Her transformation was complete. No longer was she just Adam's lost wife, she was Lilith, the night demon, the witch who haunted the dark corners of the world. She became a figure of nightmares, a being who could command the winds, summon the spirits of the dead, and bring terror to those who crossed her path. Mothers whispered her name in fear, warning their children of the demon who could snatch them away in the night. Men spoke of her with both desire and dread, knowing that she was both alluring and deadly. But behind the stories, behind the fear, was a woman who had refused to be less than what she was. Lilith's power was not just in her magic, but in her unyielding spirit, her refusal to accept a fate that was not her own. She became the embodiment of all that was feared and misunderstood in women, their strength, their independence, their refusal to be controlled. As centuries passed, Lilith's legend grew. She was said to be the mother of all witches, the one who taught them the forbidden arts, who passed down her knowledge of the dark and mysterious. She was a teacher, a guide to those who, like her, refused to be bound by the rules of men and gods. Her name became synonymous with rebellion, with the power that comes from claiming one's own destiny, no matter the cost. And yet, there is a sadness in Lilith's story, a loneliness that lingers in the shadows. She chose freedom, but it came with isolation. She became powerful, but at the cost of being forever feared, forever alone. Her children, the ones who survived the curse, became demons and spirits, beings who, like their mother, were cast out from the world of the living. And Lilith herself became a symbol of the price one pays for power, for refusing to bow to the will of others. But despite the fear and the darkness that surrounded her, Lilith's story is one of strength, of resilience. She was the first to claim her own fate, to say no to a world that tried to diminish her. She was not just a sorceress, not just a witch, she was a force of nature, a reminder that there is power in standing alone, and embracing who you truly are, even when the world tells you to be something else. Lilith's legacy lives on in every story of witches and sorceresses that came after her. She is the mother of all who dare to defy, who refuse to be less than what they are. Her name, once spoken in fear, is now a symbol of empowerment, a reminder that even in the darkest of nights, there is a light that cannot be extinguished. In the stillness of the night, when the moon hangs like a watchful eye in the sky, a figure emerges from the shadows. She is neither wholly light nor entirely dark, but a blend of both, embodying the mysteries of the universe. She is Hecate, the goddess who stands at the crossroads, where the known world meets the unknown. With every step, the earth trembles beneath her feet, and whispers of ancient power echo in the air. She is the triple goddess, the protector of witches, the guardian of secrets, and the embodiment of magic itself. Hecate's origins are as ancient as the earth itself, and her power stretches far beyond the boundaries of the mortal world. She was born of the Titans, the old gods who ruled before the Olympians took their thrones. Unlike the other gods, Hecate's domain was not limited to the sky or the sea or the earth. Her realm was the in-between, the places where one world touched another, where the living brushed against the dead, where light kissed the edge of darkness. It was in these liminal spaces that Hecate thrived, for she was a goddess of boundaries, of transitions, of the spaces where everything and nothing existed at once. With her came the power of the moon, the night, and the shadow. Hecate was often depicted holding torches, symbols of the light she could bring into the darkest of places. Yet, there was always an edge of fear in her worship, for the light she carried could just as easily reveal as it could blind. Hecate was not a goddess who could be easily defined. She was the protector, the guide, the one who stood at the threshold to show the way. But she was also the one who could open doors to places that should never be entered, revealing the terrors that lay hidden in the darkness. For the witches of ancient Greece, Hecate was their patroness, their source of power and protection. She was the one they called upon in their rituals, the one whose name they whispered when they needed guidance or strength. They honored her with offerings at the crossroads, leaving food and drink to appease her and gain her favor. To them, Hecate was not just a goddess but a companion, a powerful ally who could bend the forces of nature to their will. She was the guardian of magic, the keeper of the sacred knowledge that could heal or harm, create or destroy. Yet, Hecate's power was not without its dangers. She was as much a goddess of the dead as she was of the living, a guide who could lead souls to the underworld or summon them back to the world of the living. She was often depicted with three faces, each one representing a different aspect of her power: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. These faces symbolized the different phases of life, the constant cycle of birth, growth, and decay. Hecate was the goddess of all three, holding the power of life and death in her hands. The ancient Greeks both revered and feared her. In her, they saw a goddess who could protect them from harm, but who could also bring down curses with a single word. She was a force of nature, unpredictable and wild, like the storms that swept in from the sea or the fires that raged through the forests. Hecate could bring fertility to the land or blight the crops with a glance. She could bless a home with prosperity or haunt it with restless spirits. Her favor was something to be earned, not taken for granted, for to anger Hecate was to invite disaster. But despite her fearsome reputation, Hecate was also a goddess of compassion, especially to those who were lost or suffering. She was the protector of women, particularly during childbirth, and the guardian of those who had no other to defend them. She watched over the weak, the outcasts, and the travelers who found themselves at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. In this role, Hecate's torches were a symbol of hope, a light in the darkness that could guide them to safety. Hecate's power extended beyond the physical world into the realm of the spiritual. She was often invoked in rituals of necromancy, where the living sought to communicate with the dead. Her connection to the underworld made her a powerful ally in these rites, as she could bridge the gap between the two worlds. But this power came with a heavy responsibility, for to summon the dead was to risk their wrath, and Hecate was not one to protect those who acted foolishly. She was a goddess who demanded respect, for she held the keys to the mysteries of life and death. The stories of Hecate have endured for centuries, passed down through generations as a testament to her enduring power. She has been portrayed as both a benevolent goddess and a terrifying sorceress, a figure of light and darkness, of life and death. To the witches who worshipped her, Hecate was everything they aspired to be: wise, powerful, and unafraid of the unknown. She was a symbol of the power that comes from embracing both the light and the dark within oneself, of standing at the crossroads and choosing one's own path. In the end, Hecate is a reminder of the complexity of the human spirit, of the power that lies within us all to shape our own destinies. She is a goddess who cannot be easily categorized or understood, for she exists in the spaces between, where the lines blur and nothing is as it seems. Her story is one of strength, of mystery, and of the eternal dance between light and darkness. And in the stillness of the night, when the world is quiet and the shadows stretch long, Hecate stands at the crossroads, holding her torches high, ready to guide those who seek her wisdom. In the misty vales of Avalon, where the line between reality and myth fades like the morning fog, there lived a woman whose name would be whispered in fear and awe for generations. Morrigan Le Fay, once a healer, became something far more powerful, far more feared. Her story is one of transformation, of light turned to shadow, and of a heart caught between love and vengeance. Morrigan was born into a world of magic, the half-sister of King Arthur, destined to play a role in the legendary tales of Camelot. In the beginning, she was known as a healer, a woman of deep knowledge who could mend the body and soothe the soul. Her hands, gentle and skilled, brought comfort to those in pain. She was taught the ancient arts, the secrets of herbs and potions, and the sacred rituals passed down through the ages. But within her, there was a hunger, a need for something greater than the quiet life of a healer. As she grew, so too did her power. Magic pulsed in her veins, a gift she wielded with precision and care. Yet, beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Morrigan was not content to remain in the shadows, healing wounds while others fought and ruled. She wanted more, ached for the power that was so often denied to women in her world. She saw the strength in her half-brother, Arthur, and the respect he commanded, and she longed for the same. But with power comes temptation, and for Morrigan, the path of light was not the one she chose to walk. Betrayals, real or perceived, began to twist her heart. She felt the sting of rejection, the pain of being cast aside, and these wounds festered. The healer's touch she once offered became something more sinister. The magic that once healed now had the potential to harm, to destroy. Her transformation from healer to witch was not a sudden one, but a slow descent, marked by bitterness and a desire for retribution. Morrigan's heart grew colder, her mind sharper. She became a master of manipulation, using her beauty and intelligence to bend others to her will. She was no longer just the sister of a king, she was a force to be reckoned with, a sorceress whose power rivaled that of the greatest wizards. The same hands that had once healed now cast spells of illusion and deceit, weaving a web that would entangle all of Camelot. Her role in the downfall of Camelot is one that cannot be overlooked. Morrigan's actions were driven by a mix of love, hate, and a thirst for power. She sought to bring down the kingdom that had caused her so much pain, to see her brother, Arthur, brought to his knees. She seduced his knights, sowed discord among his closest allies, and used her magic to turn friends against one another. Her greatest act of betrayal was perhaps her manipulation of Arthur's downfall, a plan that took years to unfold, but one that she executed with precision and cold determination. Yet, there was always something more to Morrigan, something that made her story all the more tragic. Deep down, beneath the layers of anger and vengeance, there was a woman who had once loved, who had once cared deeply for those around her. Her actions were born from a place of deep pain, a wound that had never healed. The otherworldly forces she commanded were both her strength and her curse, for they isolated her from the very people she had once sought to protect. Morrigan Le Fay was also closely tied to the otherworld, the mystical realm beyond the reach of mortals. Avalon, the place of her birth and her refuge, was a land of eternal mist, where the boundaries between life and death, reality and dream, were blurred. It was said that Morrigan could travel between these worlds at will, slipping through the veil like a shadow in the night. This connection to the otherworld only added to her mystery, making her both feared and revered. In the end, Morrigan's story is one of sorrow and loss. She became a symbol of the destructive power of unchecked ambition, of the way love can twist into something dark and dangerous. But she was also a reminder of the strength and resilience of women, of their ability to wield power in a world that sought to suppress them. Morrigan Le Fay was not simply a villain, she was a complex, multifaceted woman whose actions, while often unforgivable, were driven by a deeply human need for recognition, respect, and, ultimately, revenge. Her legacy lives on in the tales of Arthurian legend, a figure both admired and feared. Morrigan Le Fay, the enchantress of Camelot, the woman who could have been a healer, chose a different path, a path of magic, of power, and of shadow. And in the end, she became one of the most powerful witches the world has ever known, a name that will never be forgotten. On an island surrounded by treacherous seas, where the winds whispered secrets and the air was thick with enchantment, there lived a woman whose very name sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak it. Circe, the bewitching sorceress of the Odyssey, was no ordinary mortal. She was a figure of both awe and terror, a woman whose power could reshape the very fabric of reality. Her tale is one of transformation, of men turned to beasts, of fate twisted at her whim, and of a heart that balanced on the knife's edge between kindness and cruelty. Odysseus, the weary traveler, found himself on the shores of Circe's island after years of struggle and loss. His men, exhausted and hungry, stumbled upon her home, a place of strange beauty where the very trees seemed to hum with life. Circe welcomed them with open arms, offering them food and drink, her smile warm, her eyes bright with a promise of comfort. But beneath that smile lay something darker, something that none of the men could have anticipated. As they drank the wine she offered, their bodies began to change. What was once human became something less, something wild. Limbs shortened, skin sprouted fur, and mouths that had spoken words now grunted in confusion. The men were transformed into swine, their minds still aware of what they had lost, but trapped in bodies that no longer obeyed their will. Circe watched with a quiet satisfaction as they squealed in terror, her power undeniable, her dominance complete. Yet, there was more to Circe than the malevolence she displayed. When Odysseus, protected by the gods, confronted her, she did not fight. Instead, she relented, returning the men to their original forms. This act, so unexpected, revealed the complexity of Circe's character. She was not merely a villain, not simply a witch who thrived on the suffering of others. There was a softness in her, a hint of compassion that showed itself in the moments when she allowed herself to care. Circe's power of transformation was her greatest weapon, but it was also a reflection of her own inner turmoil. She was a sorceress who could change others with a thought, yet she herself was trapped in a life of solitude, cursed by her own choices. The beasts that roamed her island were not just the remnants of men, they were symbols of her own isolation, creatures that mirrored the wildness within her own heart. Circe's magic was as much a curse as it was a gift, a reminder that the power to change others often comes with the inability to change oneself. Odysseus, the man of many wiles, saw through the veneer of cruelty that Circe wore like armor. He saw the loneliness in her eyes, the longing for something more than the empty life she had created for herself. And in that moment, Circe changed once again. She became a guide, a helper, someone who could offer wisdom and aid to the hero who stood before her. She warned him of the dangers that lay ahead, of the trials he would face on his journey home. And in doing so, she revealed the duality of her nature. Circe was both a benevolent guide and a malevolent witch, a woman who could nurture and destroy in equal measure. Her magic was not bound by the rules of the mortal world, and neither was her heart. She loved and hated with the same intensity, her emotions as volatile as the spells she cast. Those who encountered her never left unchanged, for Circe had the power to strip away the layers of pretense that people wore, revealing the raw truth beneath. In the end, it was not Circe's ability to transform others that defined her, but her own transformation throughout the tale. She began as a figure of fear, a sorceress who wielded her power with merciless precision. But by the time Odysseus left her island, she had become something more, a symbol of the complex nature of power, of the way it can both elevate and isolate those who possess it. Circe's story is one of contradictions, of light and dark, of kindness wrapped in cruelty. She is a reminder that people are rarely what they seem, that beneath the surface lies a world of emotions and desires that shape every action. Circe was a sorceress, yes, but she was also a woman who loved, who feared, who longed for connection even as she pushed it away. And it is this duality, this balance between the benevolent and the malevolent, that makes her story one that continues to captivate, to haunt, and to inspire. In the heart of ancient Cailleach, where the air was thick with the scent of dark herbs and the whispers of forgotten gods, there lived a woman whose name would become synonymous with both love and vengeance. Medea, the daughter of King Aeetes, was no ordinary woman. Born of royal blood and blessed with the knowledge of ancient sorcery, she possessed a power that could bend the very will of the gods. But it was her heart, as much as her magic, that would lead her down a path of unimaginable pain and tragedy. Medea's story begins with a man, Jason, the hero of the Argonauts, who came to Cailleach in search of the Golden Fleece. For him, it was a quest for glory, a way to reclaim his rightful throne. For Medea, it was the beginning of a love that would consume her entirely. When she first saw Jason, something deep within her stirred, a feeling so powerful it overwhelmed all reason. She knew that helping him would mean betraying her own father, turning her back on everything she had ever known. But love, as it so often does, blinded her to the consequences. With her sorcery, Medea wove spells to protect Jason and his men, guiding them through the impossible trials set by her father. She enchanted weapons, brewed potions, and called upon the dark forces that had been her companions since childhood. Her magic was powerful, unmatched by any mortal. But it was not her magic alone that made her dangerous, it was the depth of her love for Jason, a love that knew no bounds, that would stop at nothing to ensure his success. When Jason claimed the Golden Fleece, it was Medea's doing. She had betrayed her father, killed her brother to aid their escape, and left her homeland behind, all for the man she loved. They fled together, Jason promising her a life of happiness and honor in his distant homeland. But the gods, it seemed, had other plans. For all her power, Medea could not foresee the darkness that would come to shadow her love, the betrayal that would turn her heart to stone. In Corinth, far from the land of her birth, Medea's world began to unravel. Jason, now consumed with ambition, sought to marry the daughter of King Creon, casting Medea aside as if she were nothing more than a tool to be discarded. The man for whom she had sacrificed everything, the man she had loved beyond reason, had betrayed her in the most painful way imaginable. Medea's heart, once full of love, now boiled with rage and sorrow. And in that rage, her sorcery took on a new, darker form. She crafted a plan, one that would leave a scar on the world that would never heal. Medea sent a poisoned gown to Jason's new bride, a gift that would consume the young woman in flames as soon as it touched her skin. The fire that burned the bride was a reflection of the fire that burned within Medea, a fire that could only be quenched by the most terrible act of all. For Medea knew that to truly destroy Jason, she would have to take from him what he held most dear. In a moment that would haunt her for the rest of her life, Medea turned her magic against her own children, the sons she had borne with Jason. It was an act of vengeance so profound, so deeply rooted in pain, that it defies understanding. She killed them, not out of hatred for them, but out of a desire to inflict the deepest possible wound on the man who had torn her heart apart. And in that moment, Medea became both the most powerful sorceress and the most tragic figure in all of Greek mythology. Her story does not end with that act of horror. Medea escaped, carried away by the chariot of her grandfather, the sun god Helios. She lived on, a figure of sorrow and power, wandering through a world that could never understand the depth of her pain. Her name became a byword for vengeance, for the kind of love that can turn into the most destructive force imaginable. And yet, within her, there remained the woman who had once loved so deeply, who had once been willing to give up everything for the man she adored. Medea's legacy is one of contradictions. She is remembered as both a powerful witch and a tragic heroine, a woman whose actions were driven by a complex web of love, betrayal, and an insatiable thirst for vengeance. Her sorcery was unmatched, her power feared by all who knew her story. But it was her heart, her capacity for both love and hate, that truly defined her. Even now, the name Medea evokes a shiver, a reminder of the thin line between love and madness, between devotion and destruction. She was a woman who could command the forces of the universe, but who was ultimately undone by the one thing she could not control, her own heart. And in that, she remains one of the most haunting figures of all time, a sorceress whose story will be told for as long as there are those who remember the power of love, and the terrible things it can drive us to do. The battlefield was silent, the air thick with the scent of blood and the weight of impending doom. Amidst the stillness, a shadow moved, dark, elusive, and foreboding. The warriors, hardened by countless battles, felt a chill that went beyond the cold of the night. They knew she was near. The Morrigan, the Phantom Queen, had come to claim her own. She was not just a goddess, she was fate itself, a shape-shifting specter who danced on the edge of life and death, weaving the destinies of men with her cold, unyielding hands. In the ancient lore of the Celts, the Morrigan was a figure of terrifying power. She was the whisper in the wind before a battle, the raven perched on a dying soldier's chest, the phantom that haunted the dreams of kings. To speak her name was to invoke war, to acknowledge the inescapable grasp of fate. Yet, she was more than just a harbinger of death. The Morrigan was a force of nature, embodying the primal, untamed energy that surged through the earth, the skies, and the hearts of all who knew of her. The Morrigan was not a single being, but a trio, three sisters, three aspects of the same formidable power. Bad, the crow who fed on the flesh of the fallen, Macha, the horse goddess who raced through the night, and Nemain, the chaos bringer whose scream could drive men mad. Together, they formed a trinity of war, fate, and death, a holy trinity that inspired both reverence and fear. They could take any form, a maiden, a mother, a crone, or shift into the shape of a raven, a wolf, or a cow. To see them was to see the end, a glimpse of the other world where life and death intertwined. Yet, the Morrigan was not just a goddess of war. She was a witch-like figure, one who wielded the power of prophecy and magic. She could see into the future, her visions of blood and destruction as clear as the morning sun. Her voice could curse or bless, her touch could heal or kill. She straddled the line between life and death, between the human and the divine, a figure whose power was rooted in the earth and the spirits that dwelled within it. To the warriors of ancient Ireland, the Morrigan was both a protector and a destroyer. She could grant victory or doom, her favor as fickle as the wind. Before a battle, she might appear as a beautiful woman, offering her love to the hero who would lead his people to glory. But should he refuse her, her beauty would turn to rot, her love to venom, and his fate would be sealed. For the Morrigan did not forget a slight, and her vengeance was swift and terrible. In the heat of battle, the Morrigan would appear on the field, her presence unmistakable. She could be seen as a crow, circling above the fray, her cawing a grim reminder of the death that awaited. Or she might be a phantom, gliding through the ranks of soldiers, her touch chilling the blood in their veins. The sight of her could inspire courage or terror, depending on her mood, her will. For those who fought with her favor, victory was assured. But for those who faced her wrath, there was no escape. The Morrigan was not merely a figure of death and destruction. She was also a guardian of the land, a protector of the sacred order. When the balance was threatened, when chaos sought to overthrow the natural order, the Morrigan would rise to restore what was lost. She was a goddess of sovereignty, one who could bestow or withdraw the right to rule. Kings bowed to her, knowing that their reign was only as secure as her favor. Should they fail to honor her, to respect the ancient ways, she would strip them of their power, leaving them broken and alone. The Morrigan was also a figure of prophecy, her visions often as terrifying as they were accurate. She could see the threads of fate, how they twisted and knotted, leading to inevitable doom. Her prophecies were not mere predictions, they were declarations of what would be. To hear the Morrigan speak of the future was to know that the events she described were already set in motion, that no force on earth could change what was to come. In her, the Celts saw the embodiment of war and peace, life and death, chaos and order. The Morrigan was a goddess who defied simple understanding, a force of nature that could not be tamed. She was the wildness of the storm, the fury of the sea, the silence of the grave. And she was also the voice of the land, the one who spoke for the spirits of the earth, demanding that they be honored, that their power be respected. The Morrigan's power did not end with the fall of the Celtic kingdoms. Her legend lived on, whispered by those who remembered the old ways, who still felt her presence in the world around them. Her name was spoken in reverence and fear, her story passed down from generation to generation. She remained a symbol of the untamed, the unknown, the power that lies just beyond the edge of human understanding. For in the Morrigan, the Celts saw not just a goddess, but a reflection of the world itself, wild, unpredictable, and infinitely powerful. She was the dark side of nature, the force that could bring life or death with a single breath. And she was also a reminder that no matter how much power humans might wield, there are forces in the world that are beyond their control, forces that demand respect, that demand fear. The Morrigan was, and is, the shadow that looms over the world, the force that cannot be ignored or denied. She is the witch, the goddess, the phantom queen. And she is always watching, always waiting, her eyes fixed on the battlefield of life, her hands ready to weave the next thread of fate. In the heart of the dark, ancient forests of Eastern Europe, where the trees whispered secrets and the winds carried the cries of lost souls, there dwelled a figure both feared and revered. Baba Yaga, the witch of the Slavic forests, was as much a part of the land as the roots of the oldest oaks. She was the terror that mothers warned their children about, and yet, she was also the wise woman sought after in times of desperation. Baba Yaga was no ordinary witch, she was a force of nature, a being whose duality defied understanding. Her home was a rickety, creaking hut that stood on giant chicken legs, moving through the forest as if it had a life of its own. The hut was surrounded by a fence made of human bones, the skulls perched on top glowing with an eerie light. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of herbs, smoke, and something else, something that hinted at the darker side of Baba Yaga's nature. Her presence was palpable, even before she appeared, as if the very forest bent to her will. Baba Yaga was often depicted as a crone, her face withered by time, her body hunched and frail. But her eyes, they were alive with a fire that belied her age, a sharpness that could pierce through the soul of anyone who dared to meet her gaze. She was no ordinary old woman, her power was immense, and her knowledge vast. She knew the secrets of the earth, the sky, and everything in between. She could brew potions that healed or cursed, spoke with animals, and even commanded the elements. Yet, Baba Yaga was not merely a figure of terror. To those who were brave enough to seek her out, she could be a source of wisdom and guidance. Many a lost soul found their way to her hut, hoping to gain knowledge or aid that only she could provide. But Baba Yaga did not give her gifts freely. She was a test, a challenge, a force that demanded respect and cunning. Those who came to her with pure hearts and sharp minds might find what they sought. But those who came with greed or foolishness in their hearts were often never seen again. The tales of Baba Yaga are as varied as the lands from which they come. In some, she is a malevolent figure, preying on the weak and the unwary, devouring children who stray too far from home. In others, she is a wise woman, a guide who helps those in need, though her help often comes at a great cost. It is said that Baba Yaga's true nature is as changeable as the wind, that she is neither wholly good nor entirely evil. She is a reflection of the world itself, wild, unpredictable, and untamed. In one story, a young girl named Vasilisa, orphaned and tormented by her cruel stepmother and stepsisters, was sent into the forest to find Baba Yaga. The task was meant to be her doom, for everyone knew that no one returned from Baba Yaga's hut. But Vasilisa, armed with nothing but a doll given to her by her dying mother, ventured into the forest. The doll, imbued with her mother's love, guided and protected her as she faced the trials set by Baba Yaga. The old witch, impressed by Vasilisa's bravery and the purity of her heart, eventually gave her the fire she sought, a fire that would free her from her tormentors. But this fire, carried in a skull, was no ordinary flame. It burned with the intensity of Baba Yaga's power, and when Vasilisa brought it home, it consumed her wicked stepmother and stepsisters, leaving her free. In another tale, Baba Yaga was sought by a young man who wished to find his missing bride. He traveled deep into the forest, enduring hardships and dangers, until he reached Baba Yaga's hut. The witch agreed to help him, but only if he could perform 3 impossible tasks. With the help of the animals of the forest, whom he had treated kindly on his journey, the young man completed the tasks and won back his bride. Baba Yaga, though she had set out to test him, ultimately respected his courage and let him leave with what he sought. But not all who encountered Baba Yaga were so fortunate. There are stories of those who came to her with selfish desires, hoping to gain power or wealth. For these individuals, Baba Yaga's hut became a trap, and the forest closed in around them, their fate sealed by their own folly. Baba Yaga was not a being to be trifled with, and those who failed to show her the respect she demanded often paid with their lives. Baba Yaga's dual nature, as both a fearsome crone and a wise woman, has made her a complex figure in Slavic mythology. She is the embodiment of the wilderness, the untamed and unpredictable force that can bring life or death. She is the guardian of the threshold, the one who stands between the known world and the unknown, the living and the dead. To encounter Baba Yaga is to encounter the wildness within oneself, to face the fears and desires that lie buried deep within the heart. Yet, despite her fearsome reputation, Baba Yaga is also a figure of great power and knowledge. She is the keeper of ancient wisdom, the one who knows the secrets of the earth and the spirits that inhabit it. Those who seek her out, who are willing to face the trials she sets, may find themselves rewarded with gifts beyond measure. But these gifts are never given lightly, and they come with a price. Baba Yaga's legend has endured for centuries, passed down through generations in hushed whispers and fireside tales. She remains a symbol of the wild, untamed forces of nature, a reminder that the world is full of mysteries and dangers that cannot be easily understood or controlled. She is the witch of the Slavic forests, the one who dwells in the darkest parts of the woods, waiting for those brave or foolish enough to seek her out. And though she may be feared, she is also respected, for in her lies the wisdom of the ages, the power of the earth, and the untamed spirit of the wilderness. In the shadows of ancient Greece, where the line between the living and the dead blurred, there existed beings so terrifying, their very name struck fear into the hearts of all who heard it. The Furies, known as the Erinyes, were not just spirits of vengeance, they were the embodiment of the darkest forms of justice, relentless in their pursuit of those who had committed unspeakable acts. Their presence was a curse, their fury unquenchable, and their methods so cruel that even the gods themselves feared them. The Furies were born from the blood of Uranus, the sky god, when he was violently overthrown by his own son, Cronus. From the very moment of their creation, they were bound to the earth, their purpose clear and unyielding, to hunt down those who had spilled the blood of their kin, to punish those who had defied the natural order. They were neither mortal nor divine, they were something in between, something that could not be reasoned with or swayed. They were forces of nature, as old as time itself, and their thirst for vengeance knew no bounds. In the dead of night, when the world was silent and still, the Furies would rise from the depths of the underworld, their wings dark as the void, their eyes burning with a hatred that could consume souls. They moved like shadows, unseen until it was too late, their cries echoing through the air like the wails of the damned. To see a Fury was to know that your time had come, that there was no escape from the punishment that awaited you. The Furies were often depicted as hideous crones, with snakes for hair and eyes that dripped with blood. But their appearance was merely a reflection of the horror they brought with them. They were not bound by physical form, they could appear as beautiful maidens, luring their victims into a false sense of security before revealing their true nature. Their beauty was a weapon, a tool to ensnare those who were foolish enough to believe that they could escape justice. But the Furies were more than just avengers of blood. They were guardians of the moral order, enforcers of oaths and punishers of those who had wronged others. They were the voices of the oppressed, the cries of those who had been wronged, given form and power. In this way, the Furies were seen as both terrifying and necessary, a reminder that justice would always find its mark, no matter how far one might run. Their connection to witchcraft is found in their very essence. Like witches, the Furies wielded power that came from the earth itself, power that was primal and untamed. They were not bound by the laws of men or gods. Their power came from a place beyond such things. The rituals and curses they employed were dark and ancient, passed down through the ages by those who sought to harness the same forces for their own ends. To invoke the Furies was to call upon a power that could not be controlled, a power that would consume everything in its path. In the myths, the Furies are often seen as agents of divine justice, sent by the gods to punish those who had committed great sins. But they were also feared for their independence, for the fact that they did not always act at the behest of the gods. They were known to pursue their own sense of justice, to punish those who had wronged others even when the gods had turned a blind eye. This made them both respected and feared, for no one could be sure when they might become the target of the Furies' wrath. One of the most famous stories involving the Furies is that of Orestes, who was pursued by them after he killed his mother, Clytemnestra, in revenge for her murder of his father, Agamemnon. The Furies hounded Orestes relentlessly, driving him to the brink of madness with their constant torment. They were implacable in their pursuit, and nothing Orestes did could shake them off. It was only through the intervention of the goddess Athena that Orestes was finally freed from their grasp, and even then, it was only after he had been put on trial and found not guilty by the gods themselves. The Furies were also closely connected to the underworld, the realm of the dead. They served Hades, the god of the underworld, and were often seen as his enforcers, carrying out his will on the surface world. But their connection to the underworld was more than just a job, it was a part of who they were. They were born of the earth, and to the earth they would always return. The underworld was their home, a place of darkness and decay where they could be at their most powerful. In some tales, the Furies were seen as protectors of the innocent, avenging the deaths of those who had been wronged. But in others, they were seen as malevolent spirits, taking pleasure in the suffering they caused. This duality is what makes the Furies so fascinating and so terrifying. They were not bound by the same rules as other beings. They could be both just and cruel, both protectors and destroyers. Their power was absolute, and their judgment final. The Furies were more than just spirits of vengeance. They were a manifestation of the darker side of justice, the side that does not forgive or forget. They were a reminder that for every action, there is a consequence, and that no matter how far one might run, they could never escape the judgment of the Furies. They were the embodiment of the belief that justice, in its purest form, is not about mercy or redemption, but about making sure that the scales are balanced, no matter the cost. The Furies continue to be a symbol of the relentless pursuit of justice, a force that cannot be bargained with or escaped. They are a reminder that some actions carry consequences that cannot be undone, that some crimes are so great that they call out for retribution. And while their methods may be cruel, their purpose is clear: to ensure that those who have wronged others are brought to account, no matter how long it takes, no matter how far they must go. In the shadowy underbelly of 17th century Paris, where opulence and decadence masked a world of intrigue and treachery, lived a woman whose name would become synonymous with darkness and scandal. La Voisin, born Catherine von Voisin, was a figure wrapped in mystery and menace, her life a chilling testament to the dark side of human nature. Her story is not just one of witchcraft, but of betrayal, deceit, and the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. La Voisin's life was one of extremes. She began as a modest midwife and healer, but her talents and ambitions quickly led her into the darker corners of society. She was rumored to possess an uncanny ability to concoct potions, charms, and spells, and her services became highly sought after by the wealthy and influential. But beneath her facade of respectability lay a world of occult practices, and it wasn't long before her name became entangled with the most infamous scandal of the era, the affair of the Poisons. The affair of the Poisons was a scandal that rocked France to its core. It involved a network of fortune-tellers, poisoners, and occultists who were accused of a range of crimes from poisoning to ritual murders. At the center of this web was La Voisin, a woman who allegedly trafficked in both the magical and the malevolent. Her involvement in this scandal was not just about her participation, but about the very essence of her existence. Voisin was accused of dabbling in the darkest forms of witchcraft, of striking pacts with the devil himself, and of orchestrating heinous acts that defied imagination. One of the most shocking aspects of Voisin's story is her reputed role in procuring poisons for her wealthy clients. The use of poison was a common method for those wishing to dispose of rivals or enemies discreetly, and Voisin's skills made her a valuable asset in this regard. Her clients were not just ordinary people but members of the elite, noblemen and women who saw her as a means to achieve their darkest desires. The very idea that such a woman could be involved in such sinister activities sends shivers down the spine, painting a picture of a society where even the highest echelons of power were tainted by corruption and malice. Voisin's alleged dealings with the devil added another layer of horror to her already sinister reputation. She was accused of holding black masses and performing rituals meant to invoke demonic forces. These rites were said to be not just for personal gain but for the purpose of cursing and harming others. The notion that Voisin could summon the devil and command such dark forces was a chilling one, embodying the fears and superstitions of an era obsessed with the supernatural. Her trials and execution only served to cement her place in history as one of the most notorious witches of her time. The evidence against her was a grotesque blend of testimonies and confessions extracted under duress, weaving a narrative of horror that seemed almost too fantastic to be true. Yet, the very nature of her crimes and the scandal they sparked resonated deeply with the fears of a society grappling with its own demons. In court, Voisin's confessions were as dramatic as they were disturbing. She spoke of rituals conducted in hidden chambers, of blood sacrifices, and of deals made with the devil. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of impending doom, as the courtroom became a stage for a macabre play where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurred. Her trial revealed the depths of her involvement in the scandal, but it also exposed the hypocrisy of a society that condemned her while indulging in the very practices she was accused of. Voisin's execution was a grim spectacle, a final act in a tragedy that had captivated the nation. Her death marked the end of one of the most scandalous chapters in French history, but her legacy lived on, a symbol of the dark side of human nature and the lengths to which people will go in their pursuit of power and revenge. The fear and fascination she inspired are reminders of how easily the line between the mundane and the supernatural can be crossed, and how the darkest corners of our souls can manifest in the most unexpected ways. Her story is not just a historical account, it is a window into the fears and anxieties of an age obsessed with witchcraft and the occult. It shows how easily fear can be manipulated, how power can corrupt, and how the pursuit of forbidden knowledge can lead to one's own undoing. Voisin's life and death are a chilling reminder of the potential for darkness within us all, and the lengths to which some will go to harness and exploit that darkness. In the heart of Norse mythology, where the world is a tangled web of gods, giants, and cosmic forces, there exists a trio of figures whose presence is as inevitable as it is chilling. The Norns, ancient weavers of fate, loom over the destinies of gods and men alike with an authority that is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Their role is one of supreme power and mystery, weaving the threads of life with a certainty that leaves no room for escape. Imagine a vast, cosmic loom where every thread represents a life, a fate, or a moment in time. The Norns, fate, verandi, becoming, and skuld, necessity, are the weavers of this loom, each thread passing through their hands, shaped by their will. They reside by the well of Urd beneath Yggdrasil, the great world tree, their influence reaching far and wide, affecting everything from the fate of gods to the lives of mortals. The eldest of the Norns, represents the past. Her presence is a constant reminder of the unchangeable nature of what has already occurred. She holds the knowledge of all that has happened, her hands deftly manipulating the threads of history, binding the past to the present with a weave that is both intricate and immutable. To cross her is to face the weight of time itself, a burden that cannot be lifted. Verandi, the Norn of the present, stands as the embodiment of the current moment, shaping the ongoing flow of existence. She is the weaver of now, her influence felt in every choice and action that unfolds in the present. Her work is dynamic, adjusting the threads as they pass through her fingers, reflecting the ever-changing nature of life. Her loom is constantly in motion, a reminder that the present is a fleeting, fragile thing, subject to the whims of fate. Skuld, the youngest of the Norns, represents the future. Her role is both feared and revered, for she holds the power to shape what is yet to come. Her threads are full of potential, their end yet unseen, and her hands weave with an understanding of what is to be, rather than what has been or is. To meet Skuld is to confront the unknown, the certainty of destiny intertwined with the uncertainty of what lies ahead. The Norns are not just passive observers of fate, but active participants in its crafting. Their powers extend into the realm of witchcraft, a dark and potent force that mirrors their control over destiny. Their association with the magical arts reflects their ability to manipulate the very fabric of reality, bending it to their will. They are the ultimate sorceresses, their magic rooted in the primordial forces of the universe, their spells both awe-inspiring and fearsome. Their influence is absolute and inescapable. The gods themselves are not immune to their power. Even the mighty Odin, king of the Aesir, is subject to the whims of the Norns. The threads of fate they weave determine the outcomes of battles, the rise and fall of heroes, and the very existence of the cosmos itself. In their presence, even the gods must accept their roles, their destinies spun into the grand tapestry of the universe. Imagine the dread that grips a soul when faced with the knowledge that their fate is in the hands of these ancient weavers. There is no bargaining with the Norns, no changing of the weave once it has been set. Their power is a reminder of the harsh realities of existence, where even the greatest of beings cannot escape the threads that bind them. The Norns embody the inexorable flow of time and fate, their control over destiny both a source of terror and a profound, unyielding truth. Their influence extends beyond the gods and mortals to the very essence of the universe. The cycles of life and death, creation and destruction, all flow through their loom. The Norns are not merely arbiters of individual destinies, but custodians of the cosmic order, their work ensuring that the balance of existence is maintained. Their weaving is a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things, each thread affecting the whole in ways both seen and unseen. In the quiet moments by the Well of Ord, where the threads of fate are spun, one can almost hear the hum of the loom, a sound that echoes through the ages, binding all of creation in its web. The Norns, with their ancient power and unyielding authority, remind us of the deep currents that flow beneath the surface of existence, shaping and defining the world in ways that are both mysterious and profound. In the hushed, eerie silence of ancient Israel, where fear and awe mingled with the whispers of the supernatural, there existed a figure whose very presence cast shadows over the pages of the Bible. The Witch of Endor, a name that resonates with a chilling sense of forbidden power, stands out as one of the most enigmatic and haunting characters in biblical lore. Her story is a blend of the mystical and the tragic, a narrative that sends shivers down the spine and sparks the imagination. The tale of the Witch of Endor unfolds during a time of great turmoil. King Saul, the ruler of Israel, found himself in desperate straits. The once mighty king, who had fallen out of favor with God and was tormented by his own inner demons, sought a way to gain insight into his fate. In a moment of utter desperation, he turned to the very practices he had once condemned, seeking out a woman whose name was synonymous with the occult. Endor, a small village in ancient Israel, was home to this mysterious woman, known in her community as a wise and powerful figure. Despite her reputation, she was also a practitioner of dark arts, a realm of forbidden knowledge that had been denounced by the Hebrew law. The Witch of Endor's craft was a source of both fear and fascination. Her ability to commune with the dead and see beyond the veil of the living made her a controversial figure in a society that feared and loathed what it did not understand. King Saul's request was audacious and fraught with danger. He disguised himself, seeking out the Witch of Endor in secrecy, knowing full well the risks involved. The land was rife with a strict prohibition against necromancy, and Saul himself had previously banned such practices. But his desperation drove him to a place where he was willing to cross any boundary, no matter how perilous. When the Witch of Endor performed the forbidden rite, she summoned a spectral figure from the beyond. The apparition that appeared was none other than the ghost of Samuel, the prophet who had long since departed from the mortal realm. The encounter was as dramatic as it was unsettling. The sight of Samuel's ghost rising from the earth, his presence both a confirmation of the supernatural and a source of dread, painted a vivid picture of the power and peril of the witch's craft. The Witch of Endor's role in this moment was both crucial and tragic. Her ability to summon the dead placed her in a position of immense power, but it also revealed the profound loneliness and despair that drove her clients to her door. For Saul, the specter of Samuel brought no comfort. Instead, it delivered a prophecy of doom, foretelling the king's downfall and the impending defeat of his forces. The very act of seeking out the Witch of Endor had sealed his fate, highlighting the futility of his attempts to alter the course set by forces far beyond his control. The Witch of Endor's legacy is a poignant one, marked by her complex duality. She was both a wise woman, possessing knowledge and power that intrigued and terrified, and a practitioner of forbidden arts, a figure of deep controversy and suspicion. Her story is a reflection of the broader conflict between the mystical and the divine, between the human desire to control the unknown and the divine will that remains beyond human grasp. In the end, the Witch of Endor's fate was as tragic as it was inevitable. Her actions, while demonstrating an undeniable power, also illustrated the profound dangers of seeking knowledge and power that lie beyond the natural order. She existed in a world where the supernatural was both feared and sought after, a place where her talents made her both a valuable asset and a pariah. Her story is a haunting reminder of the perils of venturing into the unknown and the inevitable consequences of defying the divine. The figure of the Witch of Endor lingers in the collective imagination as a symbol of the dark allure of forbidden knowledge and the tragic outcomes that can arise from seeking such power. Her legacy is one of mystery and melancholy, a testament to the intricate dance between the known and the unknown, the mortal and the divine. As the first frost of winter begins to creep over the land, the air grows thick with whispers of an ancient presence. In the heart of Celtic lore, there is a figure whose name sends shivers through the cold air, the Cailleach. She is the embodiment of winter's harsh grip and the relentless force of nature's icy hand, a figure of both reverence and fear. The Cailleach is more than just a winter deity, she is the personification of the cold, the snow, and the barren landscape that stretches across the frozen land. Her very essence is intertwined with the harsh, unforgiving aspects of winter, making her a powerful symbol of the season's extremes. As the frost begins to settle, her presence becomes palpable, casting a long shadow over the land. In the stories told by the ancient Celts, the Cailleach is depicted as a fearsome hag, her appearance marked by the wear of countless winters. Her face is often described as gaunt and weathered, a reflection of the age and power she embodies. Her long, tattered cloak, heavy with snow, drapes over her shoulders like a shroud of ice, and her breath is said to chill the air wherever she goes. She wields a great staff, a symbol of her authority over the winter season. This staff is no ordinary object, it is imbued with the power to summon storms, conjure blizzards, and command the frost. When the Cailleach strikes the ground with her staff, the land responds with a blanket of snow, and the winds howl with the fury of winter. Her magic shapes the season, turning vibrant landscapes into frozen wastelands. Yet, the Cailleach is not merely a harbinger of doom, she is also a figure of great depth and complexity. Her role is intrinsically linked to the cycles of nature and the balance between the seasons. The harshness of winter is a necessary part of the natural order, and the Cailleach's presence ensures that the land remains in balance. Without her, the seasons would lose their rhythm, and the earth would become stagnant, devoid of the vital changes that bring renewal and growth. In the mythological tales, the Cailleach's influence extends beyond the cold and the snow. She is deeply connected to the land itself, and her actions shape the very earth beneath her feet. The hills and mountains of the Celtic lands are said to bear her mark, with many ancient rock formations and landscapes attributed to her presence. She is a force of nature that molds the world, her impact evident in the rugged terrain and the frozen landscapes she commands. Her connection to the land is not just about the cold and the snow, but also about the cycle of life and death. Winter, with its harshness, represents a time of dormancy and rest. It is a period when the earth lies still, waiting for the return of warmth and life. The Cailleach's rule over winter is a reminder of this necessary pause, a time for the earth to rejuvenate and prepare for the rebirth that comes with spring. Despite her fearsome reputation, the Cailleach is also a figure of respect and reverence. In many stories, she is seen as a wise and ancient being whose knowledge of the land and its cycles is unmatched. She is a keeper of ancient wisdom, her presence a reminder of the deep, unchanging rhythms of nature. Her role is to ensure that these rhythms continue, to maintain the balance between life and death, growth and decay. As winter settles in and the world is cloaked in white, the Cailleach's influence is felt more strongly. The cold winds, the heavy snow, and the stark, barren landscape all bear her mark. Her presence is a constant reminder of the power of nature and the inevitability of the seasons. Her story is a testament to the awe-inspiring force of the natural world and the intricate balance that sustains it. The Cailleach's legacy is a powerful one, her influence over the seasons and the land a lasting symbol of nature's power. She is a figure of both fear and respect, a representation of the harsh realities of winter and the essential balance that she maintains. Her presence in Celtic lore serves as a reminder of the deep connection between the land and its forces, and the ancient rhythms that govern the cycles of life. In the tumultuous and icy landscape of Norse mythology, there exists a group of fierce and enigmatic figures whose very name sends shivers through the bravest of hearts, the Valkyries. These celestial beings are both revered and feared, standing at the intersection of battle and the supernatural. They are the choosers of the slain, yet their essence is steeped in a deeper, darker magic that blurs the line between noble warrior maidens and fearsome witches. The Valkyries are often imagined as strikingly beautiful maidens, their presence like a storm of light and shadow amidst the chaos of battle. With wings that gleam like the frost of dawn and armor that clinks with a haunting melody, they soar over the battlefield, their eyes sharp and unyielding. They are the arbiters of fate, deciding which warriors are worthy of a place in Valhalla and which will meet their end. Their very gaze can alter the course of a battle, their choice determining which souls will be honored and which will be left to the dark embrace of death. Their role is both noble and terrifying. To the Norse warriors, the Valkyries were a symbol of hope and honor. To be chosen by these divine maidens was the highest accolade a warrior could receive, a sign of his valor and a promise of a glorious afterlife in the halls of Odin. Yet, beneath their noble exterior lies a darker and more complex reality. The Valkyries are also deeply connected to witchcraft and the arcane, their powers extending far beyond mere battlefield prowess. The essence of their magic is tied to the very fabric of fate and destiny. The Valkyries wield powers that defy the natural order, controlling the winds of battle and bending the threads of fate to their will. This connection to witchcraft and the supernatural marks them as more than mere warriors. They are agents of destiny, manipulating the outcome of battles with an ease that is both awe-inspiring and chilling. In the Norse sagas, the Valkyries are depicted as beings of immense power and mystery. They are often seen riding through the skies, their laughter mingling with the clamor of battle. Their presence is a sign of divine intervention, a reminder of the gods' influence on the mortal realm. Yet, their dual role as both beautiful maidens and formidable witches reveals a deeper complexity. The Valkyries are not just messengers of the gods, but also embodiments of the powerful, unpredictable forces that govern the universe. Their magic is not solely destructive, but is also a means of ensuring the balance between life and death. The Valkyries' role in choosing the slain is a testament to their deep connection to the cycles of life and the afterlife. They control who lives and who dies, and in doing so, they maintain the balance of the world. Their presence on the battlefield is a reminder of the delicate balance between glory and mortality, a balance that they uphold with a combination of grace and fearsome power. The stories of the Valkyries are filled with both reverence and dread. They are seen as powerful figures who command respect and awe, their every action a reflection of their immense power and responsibility. Their ability to control the fate of warriors and their connection to the supernatural give them an aura of mystery that captivates the imagination. Yet, there is an undeniable sense of melancholy in their role. The Valkyries are bound by their duty, their choices marked by a cold inevitability. They are the keepers of fate, their actions a constant reminder of the inescapable nature of destiny. Their beauty and strength are overshadowed by the weight of their responsibility, a responsibility that sets them apart from both the gods and mortals. In the Norse myths, the Valkyries are not just figures of battle but also symbols of the powerful forces that shape the world. They embody the intricate dance between fate and free will, their role as choosers of the slain a reflection of the complex interplay between the divine and the mortal. Their story is one of grandeur and darkness, a testament to the deep and often unsettling truths of the ancient world. In the chill of a New England autumn, the town of Salem trembled under a dark cloud of hysteria that would come to define a tragic chapter in American history. The Salem witch trials, which unfolded in 1692, are a haunting tale of fear, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of scapegoats. As the leaves fell and the nights grew longer, the very fabric of the community was torn apart by accusations of witchcraft that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. The spark that ignited this inferno was a group of young girls who claimed to be afflicted by witchcraft. Their allegations, initially dismissed as the fanciful fears of children, quickly gained momentum as more and more townsfolk were drawn into the whirlwind of paranoia. The accusations were fueled by a mix of personal vendettas, long-standing rivalries, and the pervasive fear of the unknown. In a society where the line between the natural and supernatural was thin and blurred, these claims set off a chain reaction that led to chaos and despair. As the trials progressed, the list of accused witches grew, and the stories surrounding them became increasingly elaborate and chilling. Among those accused were women who were often marginalized and misunderstood, such as Sarah Good, a beggar who had long been the target of scorn and suspicion. She was portrayed as a sinister figure, her poverty and outsider status used as evidence of her supposed witchcraft. Another accused was Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean whose unfamiliar customs and beliefs made her an easy target for accusations. Her confessions, likely coerced under duress, added to the growing myth of witches in Salem. The trials were marked by intense emotional and psychological turmoil. People were accused of consorting with the devil, of flying through the night on broomsticks, and of causing harm through malevolent magic. The evidence used against the accused was often based on spectral sightings, dubious confessions, and the testimonies of those who claimed to be bewitched. In a climate of fear and desperation, reason was cast aside in favor of superstition and paranoia. The sheer horror of the Salem witch trials lies not only in the wrongful executions and imprisonments, but also in the way these events exposed the darkest corners of human nature. The trials revealed how fear can unravel the bonds of community and turn friends and neighbors into enemies. They also highlighted the dangerous power of mass hysteria and the ease with which individuals can be manipulated by their deepest anxieties. The legends that arose from the Salem witch trials have grown almost as frightening as the reality of the events themselves. Tales of witches flying through the night, of dark pacts with the devil, and of malevolent spells became embedded in the cultural imagination. These stories, while captivating, often overshadow the real and tragic experiences of those who suffered during the trials. The accused were not just characters in a macabre drama, they were real people who faced unimaginable suffering. In the years following the trials, Salem became a symbol of the dangers of unchecked fear and superstition. The town's history became a cautionary tale about the perils of mass hysteria and the importance of safeguarding justice and rationality. The witch trials left a lasting scar on the community, and the echoes of those dark days continue to resonate in modern discussions about justice and morality. As we look back on the Salem witch trials, we are faced with a poignant reminder of the power of fear and the human capacity for cruelty. The legends that arose from these events are a testament to the profound impact that fear and suspicion can have on a community. Yet, the true tragedy of Salem lies not just in the fantastical tales, but in the very real suffering endured by those who were caught in the storm of hysteria. In the heart of ancient Greece, where the gods and monsters danced together in a tapestry of myth, the Gorgons loom large with a chilling and unforgettable presence. These creatures, once divine beings, are now etched into legend as terrifying witches, their very names invoking fear and awe. Among the Gorgons, Medusa stands out as the most infamous. Her story is one of transformation and tragedy, a tale that echoes through the ages with a haunting resonance. Medusa was not always the monster we know today. In her youth, she was a beautiful maiden, blessed with unparalleled beauty. Her life seemed destined for greatness, admired by gods and mortals alike. But this beauty, as radiant as it was, would become her curse. Medusa's transformation from a revered figure to a fearsome monster came as a result of her tragic fall from grace. In many versions of the myth, she was cursed by Athena, the goddess of wisdom, after a violation in her temple. Once a symbol of beauty, Medusa became a creature of nightmares. Her beautiful hair turned into hissing serpents, and her gaze, once gentle and captivating, became a deadly weapon. Anyone who met her eyes would be turned to stone, a chilling reminder of the power and wrath of the gods. The transformation of the Gorgons, especially Medusa, from divine beings to monstrous witches, is a reflection of their complex symbolism. In their divine form, the Gorgons were protectors, guardians who wielded power to maintain balance and order. Their transition into monstrous form speaks to the themes of punishment and the dark side of divine justice. Medusa's transformation represents the often cruel and capricious nature of the gods, whose favor can turn to enmity in an instant. The Gorgons are also emblematic of the themes of power and fear. Medusa's ability to turn anyone to stone with her gaze encapsulates the idea of absolute power, power that is as terrifying as it is absolute. Her monstrous form becomes a symbol of the darker aspects of femininity, power, and vengeance. The Gorgons, once deities who might have been revered, become figures of dread, embodying the fear of the unknown and the uncontrollable. Their legacy in witchcraft lore is equally enduring. The image of the Gorgons, particularly Medusa, has transcended the boundaries of ancient mythology to become a symbol of the supernatural and the arcane. In various traditions and stories, the Gorgons are seen as witches whose power is both feared and respected. They are linked to the idea of protective magic, using their formidable abilities to ward off evil or exact revenge. Their legacy persists in the way they are portrayed in art, literature, and folklore, where they serve as symbols of both danger and protection. Medusa's story, in particular, evokes a deep sense of sorrow and empathy. She was cursed not merely for her beauty but as a punishment inflicted upon her by the gods. Her monstrous form, while fearsome, also reflects her anguish and isolation. She becomes a tragic figure, a victim of divine retribution who is forever trapped in a cycle of vengeance and suffering. The myths of Medusa and the Gorgons remind us of the complexities of power, punishment, and the human capacity for both cruelty and compassion. In the realm of myth, the Gorgons are more than just terrifying monsters, they are symbols of profound truths about power, transformation, and the interplay between divine will and human emotion. Their legacy is a testament to the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, where even the most fearsome creatures have stories that evoke deep reflection and empathy. The Black Forest of Germany, a place shrouded in mist and mystery, has long been a source of dark tales and ancient legends. In the depths of this dense, shadowy woodland, the witches of Germanic folklore take on a form both enchanting and terrifying, embodying a blend of ancient pagan traditions and the fears that arose with the spread of Christianity. Imagine a world where the forest is not just a place of trees and creatures but a living, breathing entity filled with secrets and magic. The Black Forest, with its twisted trees and winding paths, becomes a realm of both wonder and dread. It is here that the stories of the witches unfold, their lives intertwined with the very fabric of the forest itself. The witches of the Black Forest are depicted as powerful figures, their abilities rooted deeply in the ancient pagan practices of the region. They are often described as having a deep connection with nature, their magic entwined with the rhythms of the earth and the spirits that inhabit it. These witches are believed to possess the ability to communicate with animals, control the elements, and harness the hidden forces of the natural world. Their spells and potions are crafted from the herbs and plants found in the forest, making them both healers and harbingers of dark magic. Their powers, however, are not viewed through the lens of reverence alone. With the rise of Christianity, the witches of the Black Forest became figures of fear and suspicion. The pagan traditions that once celebrated their connection to the land were now seen as heretical and dangerous. The forest, once a sacred space, became a place where malevolent forces were believed to reside, and the witches, once revered, were now accused of consorting with dark powers. The clash between paganism and Christianity created a potent mixture of awe and terror. The witches, once seen as wise women with a deep understanding of nature, were now portrayed as sinister figures who practiced forbidden magic. Tales of their nocturnal rituals and unholy pacts with demonic entities filled the air, turning the Black Forest into a place of fear and superstition. One of the most haunting aspects of these legends is the image of witches performing rituals under the cover of darkness. The Black Forest, with its thick canopy and pervasive gloom, becomes a setting where anything might happen. The witches are said to gather in secret groves, their chants and incantations blending with the sounds of the night. Their gatherings are depicted as both mesmerizing and terrifying, a reflection of the dual nature of their magic. The stories also describe the witches' ability to curse those who crossed them. Those who ventured into the forest with ill intentions were said to fall victim to their wrath, their fate sealed by the witches' dark powers. The fear of being cursed or bewitched added a layer of dread to the already unsettling tales of the Black Forest. The legends of the Black Forest witches are more than just spooky stories, they are a reflection of the fears and tensions that arose from the collision of ancient beliefs with new religious ideals. They represent a time when the old ways were being challenged and transformed, and the magic that once held a place of honor was now feared as a threat. In these tales, the Black Forest witches embody the intersection of beauty and horror, wisdom and danger. Their presence in the legends of the region serves as a powerful reminder of the enduring human fascination with the unknown and the ways in which fear can shape our understanding of the world. The forest, with its darkened paths and hidden depths, remains a symbol of the mysterious and the magical, a place where the ancient and the supernatural come to life in the stories of the witches who once called it home. In the shadowy folds of ancient Germanic forests and along the mist-covered valleys, whispers of the Aluna stir the air with an air of haunting mystery. These figures, known as the Aluna, are revered in Germanic folklore as seeresses with extraordinary powers, their presence both mesmerizing and eerie. The Aluna, with their ability to peer into the depths of fate and prophecy, embody a blend of divine insight and mystical dread. Picture a cold, moonlit night in the heart of the Germanic lands. The woods are thick and dark, the silence only broken by the occasional rustle of leaves. It is in these dense, shadowy forests that the Aluna are said to dwell. They are often portrayed as women of great beauty and wisdom, draped in flowing garments that shimmer with an otherworldly glow. Their eyes, reflecting the light of the moon, seem to hold the secrets of the universe, and their voices carry the weight of prophecy. The Aluna's connection to fate is both profound and unsettling. They are believed to possess the power to see the threads of destiny, weaving through the lives of mortals and gods alike. This ability makes them central figures in Germanic mythology, as they are thought to guide or forewarn individuals about the future. Their prophecies are not merely predictions, but are woven with the threads of destiny, foretelling events with chilling precision. Imagine standing before one of these seeresses, her gaze piercing through the veil of time. The air is thick with tension as she speaks in cryptic verses, each word carrying the weight of inevitable fate. Her predictions are not easily understood, shrouded in metaphor and mystery, leaving those who seek her knowledge both awed and anxious. The power of the Aluna lies not just in their ability to foretell the future, but in their control over it, a power that evokes both reverence and fear. Their portrayal as witches adds another layer to their enigmatic presence. The Aluna are often depicted with magical abilities that extend beyond mere prophecy. They are believed to command the forces of nature, casting spells and invoking powerful energies from the natural world. Their magic is seen as both a gift and a curse, capable of bringing great fortune or profound misfortune. The dual nature of their power reflects the broader themes of fate and destiny in Germanic mythology, where the same forces that shape the future can also lead to destruction. The Aluna's connection to fate and prophecy is also intertwined with their role in shaping the lives of those who seek their guidance. Their words can alter the course of events, steering individuals toward their destined paths. This power makes them both feared and sought after, as people are drawn to them in the hope of gaining insight into their futures, while also dreading the possibility of a dark prophecy coming true. Their role as witches further amplifies the fear they inspire. The Aluna are often associated with dark rituals and mysterious rites conducted in the depths of the forest. Their magic is not always benign. It can be used to curse or manipulate, adding an element of danger to their already formidable presence. The legends speak of their ability to control the elements, summon spirits, and cast powerful spells, making them figures of both awe and terror. The legend of the Aluna resonates with a deep, primal fear of the unknown. Their ability to see and alter fate makes them powerful and enigmatic figures, their very existence challenging the boundaries between the mortal and the divine. They embody the mystery of prophecy and the fear of the future, their presence a reminder of the forces that lie beyond human understanding. In the quiet moments of nightfall, when the world is cloaked in darkness and the forest holds its breath, the Aluna remain a potent symbol of the mystical and the foreboding. Their legends speak of a world where fate and prophecy intertwine, where the power of witches is both revered and feared. The Aluna, with their haunting gaze and enigmatic prophecies, continue to captivate the imagination, their legacy a testament to the enduring allure of the unknown. In countless tales spun across time and geography, witches are often painted with a brush of dark magic and sinister intentions. Yet, amidst the shadows of these dark portrayals, there are stories that shine with a different light. These are the stories of white witches, benevolent sorceresses who defy the traditional image of witchcraft as malevolent. Their lives and legacies weave a narrative of kindness, healing, and wisdom. Picture a humble cottage nestled in a verdant glade, where the air is filled with the aroma of herbs and blooming flowers. Inside, a wise woman, known to the villagers as a white witch, tends to her garden with gentle care. Her presence is a comforting balm to those who seek her aid. This image, found in various cultures around the world, represents a different kind of witch, a figure of hope rather than fear. In many traditions, these benevolent sorceresses are seen as healers. In rural communities, they are the ones who know the secrets of herbs and potions, using their knowledge to cure ailments and alleviate suffering. Their healing practices are rooted in ancient wisdom, passed down through generations, and are viewed as a form of magic that brings comfort and relief. Their ability to heal both body and spirit reflects a deep connection to the natural world and its rhythms, offering solace and support to those in need. In other cultures, white witches are revered as wise women or shamans. They are often seen as mediators between the human world and the spiritual realms, guiding their communities with their insight and wisdom. Their rituals and practices are conducted with the intent of fostering harmony and balance. Their role as spiritual guides underscores their benevolent nature, as they use their gifts to help others find their path and connect with the divine. These sorceresses also embody the role of protectors. They are believed to possess the power to ward off evil and protect their communities from harm. In folklore, they might use their magic to cast protective spells or create charms to keep malevolent forces at bay. Their ability to safeguard their loved ones and neighbors is a testament to their strength and compassion, challenging the notion that all magic is dark or dangerous. The concept of white witches also appears in the context of cultural preservation. Many of these women are keepers of ancient traditions and knowledge, preserving the customs and practices of their ancestors. In this role, they are seen as guardians of cultural heritage, ensuring that the wisdom of the past is not lost to time. Their efforts to maintain and pass on these traditions highlight their dedication to their communities and their respect for the past. Throughout history, these benevolent witches have faced misunderstanding and prejudice. In times and places where fear of witchcraft prevailed, the very women who sought to help and heal were sometimes persecuted. Yet, their stories persist, offering a counter-narrative to the dominant tales of wicked witches. Their legacy serves as a reminder that magic can be a force for good, wielded with kindness and compassion. The contrast between these white witches and their darker counterparts is striking. While traditional depictions of witches often focus on their malevolent deeds and dark powers, the stories of benevolent sorceresses highlight a different aspect of witchcraft. These women, with their gentle magic and nurturing spirits, offer an alternative vision of what it means to be a witch. Their tales inspire a sense of wonder and hope, reminding us that the world of magic is not solely defined by fear and darkness. Instead, it can also be a realm of healing, wisdom, and protection. The image of the White Witch stands as a powerful symbol of the potential for good within the mystical arts, challenging the stereotypes and embracing a more nuanced understanding of witchcraft. In the quiet corners of our world, where the light of kindness and wisdom shines through the shadows, the legacy of the White Witches endures. Their stories, full of compassion and grace, offer a heartwarming reminder of the positive impact that magic can have on our lives. In the heart of ancient lore and sacred texts, a chilling tale unfolds, the story of fallen angels. These beings, once exalted in heaven, are now cast down to the earth, their fall marking the beginning of their transformation into powerful sorcerers. Their story is a haunting echo of rebellion and power, and it profoundly influences the image of witches throughout history. Picture the heavens, a realm of divine light and harmony. But within this celestial domain, a rebellion brews, a war waged not with swords, but with ideals. The archangel Lucifer, once the brightest of all, challenges the divine order, leading a faction of angels in defiance of the heavenly throne. Their fall from grace is not just a physical descent, but a symbolic shift from purity to forbidden knowledge. Cast out from heaven, these fallen angels find themselves on earth, their once radiant forms now cloaked in darkness. Their fall is not merely a punishment but a transformation. Stripped of their celestial glory, they embrace a new power, a deep, arcane knowledge that blurs the lines between the divine and the diabolical. This knowledge, once a gift from heaven, becomes a source of dark sorcery. Their newfound power paints them in shades of both awe and dread. In ancient texts and folklore, these fallen angels are often depicted as the original sorcerers. Their abilities, once used to serve the divine, are now harnessed for their own purposes, embodying the essence of forbidden magic. They wield spells and enchantments with a precision that speaks of their otherworldly origins, their powers both alluring and terrifying. The influence of these fallen angels on the image of witches is profound. As they roam the earth, their knowledge and abilities become intertwined with the legends of witchcraft. The image of the witch begins to blend with that of the fallen angel, a figure who possesses extraordinary power, who straddles the line between good and evil. The witch, in this light, is no longer merely a practitioner of folk magic, but a bearer of ancient, divine secrets. In various cultures, the blending of angelic and witchcraft myths creates a tapestry of fear and fascination. The fallen angels, with their dark magic, become archetypes for witches who wield powers that defy the natural order. This fusion of angelic and witchcraft lore reflects a deep-seated ambivalence toward power that comes from beyond human understanding. It is both revered and feared, seen as a source of great wisdom and profound danger. In medieval Europe, the image of witches as dark sorcerers echoes the stories of fallen angels. These witches are often depicted as having made pacts with demonic forces, their powers a reflection of the forbidden knowledge once held by the angels. The fear of witches, fueled by this association with fallen angels, leads to intense witch hunts and trials, where the line between myth and reality becomes dangerously blurred. Across different cultures, the fallen angels' influence extends into folklore and religious stories. In some traditions, witches are seen as having inherited their power from these celestial rebels, their magic a dark echo of the angels' original rebellion. The idea of witches as practitioners of ancient, forbidden knowledge links them to the fallen angels' legacy, creating a compelling narrative of power and corruption. The blending of these myths creates a rich, complex picture of witchcraft. It is not merely a practice of magic but a profound connection to ancient, divine forces. The fallen angels, in their fall from grace, become symbols of the dangerous allure of forbidden knowledge. Their influence on the image of witches underscores the timeless fascination with the boundary between the divine and the diabolical, a boundary that continues to captivate and terrify. In the end, the story of the fallen angels as the ultimate sorcerers is a haunting reflection of the human psyche's deepest fears and desires. It is a narrative that explores the allure of forbidden power and the consequences of rebellion against the divine. The fallen angel's legacy, intertwined with the image of witches, serves as a powerful reminder of the complex interplay between light and darkness, knowledge and power.